in West Swanzey, New Hampshire, and we're going to talk a little bit about Whitcomb Hall. This is a big building in the center of town, and there's a lot of history here. So this is Lee Dunham. He's a historian for Swanzey, and we're going to talk a little bit about what came about and how this all began and where we're going with this thing. So Lee, George Whitcomb makes a call to the community, and he says, if you can come up with $1,500, I will build you a building.
Yeah, he actually says, I'll build you a hall you'll never be ashamed of. So this is what we got. And I don't think anybody's ashamed of it. But I guess let's go back and tell the story. Do you know we actually have 2 town halls here in Swanzey?
No way. Now, Swanzey has a lot of little hamlets, so it's hard to know, like, okay, are we talking about Ashwheeler? Are we talking about East Swanzey, West Swanzey, North Swanzey?
Right, well, there's like 5 different villages, was anyway.
Yeah.
And it was really divided back in the old days because, farms and farmland and whatever. So around 1900, if I told you to drive from West Swanzey to Swanzey Center, you'd probably see about 1 or 2 houses between West Swanzey Village and Swanzey Center.
Right.
And that's it.
Right.
But, so we were divided. And that's where the 2 town halls come in. If you talk to the old people here and the older people in the village of West Swanzey, they don't call this Whitcomb Hall. They call it Town Hall.
Isn't that funny?
And it's just the way they are. But let's tell the story of how it actually comes to be, because it's got some twists, and I keep unraveling a little bit more of it as we go. In fact, did you know George Whitcomb was a selectman at one point? I think he also was treasurer of the town at one point, too.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this, though. George was also one of the wealthiest men in Swansea. So he probably had a little bit of pull there, too.
He grew up and got into the mill trades and had a mill here in West Swansea. Also was involved with C.L. Russell in Keene, the Russell block, right on the main square. So he earned a lot of money in his day. But when he's selectman, guess what was on the town warrant one year? 1908 actually is the town meeting. To ask the town if they would build a hall in West Swansea and dispose of the hall in Center. That's 1908. Now let's go to 1913. Town hall burns down. Flat, it's gone.
Here or in?
In Center.
Okay.
And guess what? We didn't insure it. So what do you do as a town? You have to come up with funds. And how do you come up with funds as a town? You get a special meeting together. And this is Swansea with the 5 little villages.
That don't always get along either.
And so you'd think it'd take 1 meeting? No, 3 meetings.
Right.
So in these 3 meetings, the first meeting, nothing happens. They have 3 items on the agenda. 1 is to rebuild the hall right where it was. 2 was to build a hall over here in West. And number 3 was to put it in a hall that already existed in East Swansea. The East Swansea Woodenware Hall. Now, I haven't found exactly where that is, but it's not East Swansea Community Center because it's not built yet, so it's not that hall. But nothing happens. And they have a second meeting, and nothing happens again. Third meeting gets held right across the street here at the old Universalist Church.
And that's funny because there was 2 churches right on the same block there,
Right on that same little block of land. There were 2 churches originally. And at that meeting at the Universalist Church, this is November of 1913, by 9 votes, the town hall in Swansea Center wins. So 1914 is when that building was built. Single story, what we have today. So then we go a few years into the future here, but let's back up just a hair because Dr. Arthur Hopkins comes into the picture too, another prominent citizen, the doctor, the village doctor of West Swansea. And he joins the Lincoln Grange, which happens to meet at the Universalist Church. And they're looking for a hall. They want to build a new hall. And their idea is that they're going to buy the Universalist Church, which is not being used as a church very much. George Whitcomb, our buddy who lives right next door here, approaches Dr. Hopkins and asks him, well, what are your plans? And he says, our plans are to buy the church for about $1,500. This is where George Whitcomb issues the, if you can come up with $1,500, I'll build you a hall you'll never be ashamed of. And they do that in like 30 minutes at a meeting.
Right, and they actually came up with more money than they needed, I think.
They did. The extra money, like about $650, put the clock tower on the top of this building.
Right.
So this building was built in 1916 and opened up. When you see, or if you read the articles when it was opened up, there was 700 to 800 people that stormed into this building. There was no room for anybody else. They had speeches from George Whitcomb, from Frank Snow, another prominent West Swanzey citizen, and they had a dance when they got done. And there was overflow dance down at the Evans house, which is the fire trap if you read Dr. Hopkins' book.
Right.
Which is where Nick's restaurant used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
this little part of the town must have been hopping that night. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now what I can't find out is all the accounts don't tell me the date of when this dedication happened, so I don't know exactly when it opens, but it was given to the people of Swansea, and of course you had to go through town meeting. So 1917 town meeting is when the townspeople actually voted to accept his gift, and the deed was signed like 2 days later.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Now this building was not just, it wasn't just a plain plot here either though. There was stuff that they had to do in order to get rid of another building before they could put this one here.
Right, I'd always been told this, but when we read Pep Pills and Politics, which is Dr. Arthur Hopkins' book, we find out that this was a nice lot and a house set on it. And George Whitcomb actually bought the lot before this meeting where he raised the money.
You know, what just came to my mind though is he lived right next door.
Yeah, he did.
I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Maybe he didn't like those neighbors or something. I don't know.
Well,
but yeah. Anyway, but go ahead.
So he bought the lot and he offers the house to Dr. Hopkins. And there's somebody else in town that cries foul. So Dr. Hopkins says, okay. And he puts the house up for auction. And the guy that cried foul didn't get the house. Somebody else did. Actually, the New England Box Company bought the house and had to move it back to the lot right behind us here.
Right.
We all know it as the Beehive, and it's been known as a Beehive for as long as I can remember.
It's a beautiful building, too.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's just apartments, really, isn't it?
It's been, like an apartment, tenement house ever since. So that's moved. But Dr. Hopkins, there's a piano back up on the stage up here. And that piano comes to be because Dr. Hopkins actually makes a little bit of profit when he sells the house. And he, along with George Whitcomb, they put that together and buy that Henry Miller piano.
And that's hard to believe that's still here.
And it's still here today.
Right, wow. Now, this building has gone through a lot. I remember being here in the 80s and coming to a party, and that's what it was used for. There was weddings and, other receptions and different things like that. But, go ahead.
Yeah, we're upstairs in the Great Hall. And up here, you would have had things like the graduation for Cutler School.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people don't realize this, but until Monadnock's built in 1962, we had students graduating 8th grade. And they'd have 8th grade graduations right here for Cutler School.
Right, and which Cutler School is just a throwaway.
Yeah, and I think all of us, even I remember coming over here in the 60s to do like a Christmas show. And you'd walk from Cutler all the way up here, do the show, and walk all the way back. Christmas, West Swanzey Athletic Association did a minstrel show here for years. They did, there was a Christmas, and all the village kids from West Swanzey would get presents here. They'd have a little Christmas show. Weddings, reunions, all sorts of things, anniversary parties. Suppers downstairs. There's a 36 by 39 dining hall downstairs. That was the place where they raised money to buy things for this hall.
Yeah, I mean, and really, when you look at the construction here, it
That's-
really was strong. I mean,
Oh.
the foundation, I believe, and the whole building, I mean, everything really was done with a high quality.
Yeah, it's plain, rustic simplicity.
Yeah.
New England simplicity,
Right,
really, when you look
right.
at it. They didn't make it over ornate, but they built it well.
Right.
In fact, we've had structural engineers come through this place in the recent, last few years to take a look at it. This building is sound.
Yeah, you can tell when you're walking in here, it's not moving, it's there. You've got wainscoting on some of the walls, a lot of the walls, and this looks like it's probably original here. And then you've got metal on the wall, I mean, like metal ceiling kind of stuff.
Yeah, this is what we call tin ceilings, but they called it steel ceilings and steel walls back in the day when it was put up.
Yeah.
And it's all original. This took a little bit of dings and stuff because they used this. A lot of kids remember playing basketball here.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually, boy, we had a thing in town meeting. You voted, whether they could use this to play basketball, and they did for years.
Yeah.
And I think wrestling or boxing, I think it was held here too.
Yeah. Well, that was a big thing back
classes
in,
and stuff.
back in the 18 and 1900s, wrestling was a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have a balcony, and it's so cool when you look down from the balcony.
Yes,
because this room looks huge.
Yeah.
It's a big room, but it looks huge with the balcony up there.
Now, one other thing that I thought was really interesting, when you see this building is built in 1916, 1917, and 18. If you look in the old town reports, you'll find a whole accounting of costs and revenue that comes in from this hall. And you'll find movies.
Oh, that must have been so exciting.
Now, a lot of the young kids won't understand this, but when I'm talking 1917.
No sound.
Yeah, no sound. Understand talkies, what we listen to today, didn't start until 1927. So you just understand somebody was sitting at the piano playing the little stuff while the silent movie was playing.
Right,
so.
right. Wow. So the Grange had the first 2 rooms. George Hopkins was the chairman or something of the Grange?
He was what they called the master of the Grange at that
master,
point.
Yep.
And the Grange, Lincoln Grange, which is no longer into existence, but it was the West Swanzey Grange versus the Goldenrod Grange, which
is in
was
Swansea
in Center.
Center. Yeah.
And this would have been where they would have had their ceremonies and whatever up here in this hall.
Yeah.
In fact, up on the stage, we actually did find, up in the attic, we found not 1, but 2 of the old stage curtains, which we are going to get restored. They will have a home back up on the stage when we can get this building built back up and used again. One of them is a magnificent portrait of Thompson Cover Bridge. And the other one is a true Grange Hall curtain with all the advertising. And it's advertisers that some of the old people will recognize, like Perry, Cole and, I think he had Cole and Poultry. So you could get your heat and eggs from the same guy, but it has other businesses from Keene that you might recognize. I think the precursor to Foley's Funeral Home is up there. So we're going to get those restored, and they're actually going to be hung back up.
Okay, so when you say we're going to get these restored, what does that mean? This is a big picture here. We're going to get these restored. We're going to get the building hopefully restored as well.
Right.
We're going to get curtains. We're going to try to build this back to something that the community can really enjoy.
In 2011, a couple of years back, the selectmen started a committee, which I'm on, Whitcomb Hall Committee, which what we're trying to do is 1916 was the opening of this building. We hope to, by 2016, have at least the first floor open and maybe more. We want to get the whole hall opened up. But to do that, we need money, obviously, because it takes a lot of money. What this hall is structurally sound, but it lacks a heating plant, new electricity, plumbing, and getting it up to code for assembly.
Right.
Understand,
Right.
if
Fire
you,
code, yeah.
if you read Dr. Hopkins' book, you find out this was the state of the art when it was
Right.
built in
Well,
1916.
it has 2 stairways coming down, and then
Right.
it has stairways in the back
It has
too, I think.
one stairway at the back, so you can exit both ways out of here. However, it doesn't meet the current life safety code
Right.
and ADA code. So
Right.
that's where the work is going to be.
Right.
We're started, we're well on our way. We had an enormous success to a barbecue that we had here. And we've applied for an L-chip grant. We're waiting to hear on that. When we hear on that, we'll hopefully have enough money, we think, to do the downstairs.
That'd be great.
Or very close to it.
Yeah, that'd be great. You know, I say this a lot, but if we don't restore it now,
Yeah.
it's going to be lost. Because a lot of these old buildings will just fall down if we don't take care of them right now. And, you know, Swansea especially, because I live here, I see a lot more. But there are so many buildings here that we don't really want to lose. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of history here.
Yeah, and this is like this was the focal point of this
Right.
village over here in
Right.
West Swanzey.
Yeah.
And it's really got a neat history, really neat history. A lot of kids came through here for whatever reason, you know, whether it be Christmas or all of the different things that happened here. We want to make it that again.
Right.
You know, a place for people to be able to rent the hall for family reunions or, you know, Christmas or
Yeah.
weddings.
Showers, I mean, whatever, yeah. I mean, it will be really nice to have some place that everybody can go and feel like, you know, you're a family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we haven't touched on is that clock. And Dr. Hopkins gave it the money to put a clock up on the steeple there. Now, how does that clock run?
Well, it's a 1916 Seth Thomas clock, and it's really kind of interesting. It, I think, is what they call a 7-day clock, so it roughly could go 8 days, but every week, Scott Self comes here very religiously and climbs to the clock tower and winds up the clock. There's 2 different things, one to wind up the actual clock, and the other one to wind up the chimes, because it chimes on the half hour.
Yeah, and we've heard it. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's beautiful. I think we'll take a walk up there, and I hope that, I don't know if it'll chime while we're up there or not. But,
I have only been up there once when it's chimed.
yeah, is it loud?
It's not quite that bad. 'Cause
No, okay.
The bell's up above you. So.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much here between the building and the history and the clock tower. You know, it seems like it is something that we really need to get behind.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the village clock. I mean, in 1916, you probably a lot of people didn't
Right.
have watches.
Right.
So it was a way to tell what time it
yeah,
was.
and the mill was right here, so people needed to know what time to get to the mill and what time to leave, if they ever left. But yeah, I mean, all of these things were really an important part of growing up here in West Swansea. Yeah.
All right.
So let's take a look at the clock tower.
Why not?
Okay.
It's a hike.
Wow, this is beautiful up here.
And here we are.
That doesn't look like a clock. I'm
It
looking for a
does.
face. I'm looking for a face, Lee.
Well, there is one on it. You can actually see what
Yeah.
time it is down here. but-
Right. But isn't it cool to look at the inners of the clock? So what does it take to keep this clock running?
Does it? Well, to keep it running, obviously you wind it up.
Right. And so there's no electricity.
No. And although we understand this hall has had electricity all its life.
Right.
When it was first put in, but the clock, no. It's wound once a week. A fellow by the name of Scott Self comes up here and faithfully winds it. And actually the story of how he got that job was he worked at the mill. He was one of the mechanical guys in the mill that kept the mill running. So, you know, if you build it, he can fix it.
Right. So he got the job.
Gordon Brown, the owner of the mill at
Right.
the time, said, "Scott, fixed that clock because it hasn't been working for a while.
Ah.
He came up and he fixed it, and he's been winding it ever since.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and that looks, if you know anything about clocks, that looks like just the same sort of gears and everything, and that little mantle clock that I have on my mantle.
Right, right.
Only it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah. So this clock tower has faces on all four sides?
No, on three
On
sides.
three sides,
On the
okay.
north side is the only side it doesn't, which is, nobody could see it on the
Right,
north side
right,
because
except
of
for
the
the beehive.
building.
Yeah, yeah.
So 3 sides. I think it's like a 4-foot dial, diameter dial.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
On 3 sides.
Yeah.
And it's been, well, I won't say it's been running ever since 1916, because there's been several times that it's been broken, but
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that I want this job, but it's not a bad job, especially when it's nice out. And we're looking out today, and it's fall,
Yeah,
and we've got beautiful leaves on the trees, and
yeah, it's a nice view of Main Street.
it is, yeah, yeah. Well, I think that they've got a job ahead of them, but I think that it's something that it can be attained.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Oh. So does Scott have a backup for that clock? What happens when he gets sick?
Well, as far as I know, he doesn't.
As long as he gets sick for only 2 or 3 days, he's okay. But if he gets
Right.
sick for a week, then we're in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. So today we've been in my backyard, and Lee, I think it's time.
Time?
Time.
Time, yeah. Well, we just left time. But it's time to raise some money.
Right.
And the committee is trying to raise some funds. And remember, George Whitcomb's cry is, if we can raise $1,500, we'll do the rest. Well, it's a little bit, stakes are higher now.
Right.
So please send money, because we need to raise funds to bring this great hall back to life. And you can send your money to the town of Swanzey, Post Office Box 10,009, I believe it is. Yeah, 10,009. Swanzey, New Hampshire, 03446. Put on the little memo line on your check, Whitcomb Hall Fund.
And now, is there a website or anything like that will keep people updated? I know that there's been articles in the Sentinel and things like
There's
that.
been articles in the Sentinel. We try to keep things up on the town website, so you can go to the town website. We also have created a Facebook page for Whitcomb Hall. So if you're on Facebook, Whitcomb Hall is the site.
Great, great. So there's lots of updates, and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot more about this in the next coming months. But 2016.
2016, we hope to rebuild a hall.
Right,
not
and it's
just
100th
build a hall.
anniversary, yeah. So
Yeah.
great. I'm so happy to have been here today and to have had a chance to go up to the clock tower. And I hope you've enjoyed it as well, because it's not something that everybody can do. So today we've been in my backyard with Lee Dunham. And I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you're interested in more information about In My Backyard, you can email us at inmybackyardch8@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you. Give us your ideas, because we're always interested in more information about our local area, the Monadnock region, and things that are going on in our community. So thank you, Lee.
Well, thank you, Jody.
Yes, and we'll see you again in my backyard.